informed. Fute Papo is on the air, and today is extra special. We're here at Rodrigo Beckham's house, as he's come to be known. My friend, how are you?
Hey, João, what a pleasure.
Rodrigo Wolf?
You've been around a lot with that little face. We've known each other go way back, huh? I've seen you a lot during carnivals.
You're a legend, brother. Midfielder striker who becomes a top scorer. That's right.
It's rare to see someone get into the box and hit one from outside.
From the box. No one else leads.
People no longer take shots from outside the box, which used to create opportunities. What a discussion.
I was lucky to be a reporter at that time.
So I'm going to start with a direct to the point comment. When you talk about a player and you ask what makes him different, what's the edge? It's the final touch. It's the finishing, right? A professional athlete's finishing needs to be respected. And today we feel it a lot because we just went through a World Cup where Brazil, even with all the difficulties, the start of a new cycle, right? A new era of fine, elegant, sincere people, but when it really mattered, we had the chance and we choked.
Did we choke, Rodrigo?
We choked. We choked. Sometimes you can see it in the eyes, right? We choked in a tough situation, which is a penalty kick where you need something extra. But that guy...
One-on-one with the goalkeeper.
And we also choked in a generation that runs a lot, that has a privileged athletic condition, but authority and technique, right?
It's no use having GPS running the whole field, but technique makes the difference.
Technique is the key difference maker.
I focus more on the basics. Let me know if I'm wrong. Yours, for example, you who played a lot were considered for the national team several times, but the competition in other clubs had so many guys, real top-class players.
In 2002, I didn't hear it from just anyone. I heard it from Americo Faria, whose assistant I was. I worked with him. He said it. Rodrigo, in 2002, my suggestion as the CBF's institutional representative was you, the top scorer for Atlético Mineiro, because you had something different, your medium and long distance shots, ambidextrous. And he had confidence in Juninho Paulista, a great player. He would be well served with me, with Juninho, with Jalminha, with whoever it was, because they're all great players. Now it's like this, it's a flash, it's fleeting, it goes by very quickly, and you're happy to have had something you can be proud of. I'm very proud of the time I spent in football. Great stars, great friends, great stories. It's something I'll always carry with special affection.
He wasn't just a pretty face in football.
No, he wasn't. He could really play. Top scorer, man. That's it. Exactly.
Look, where did that powerful shot come from? Is it from Santos from the beginning, where you learned to kick with that strength?
Back there at Portuguesa, artist, precision, precision.
Yeah, I have to thank futsal a lot. I played futsal until I was 18 years old and played in the morning sports programs of a city that's the birthplace of soccer, which is Santos.
With that coconut ball, right? Yeah, that futsal, it's not this nice ball, it's that little coconut one.
And at that time, I remember very well, I had my father there for me, just like Neymar did, like some athletes have nowadays, who said, son, if you want to be different, you need to score the goal. And that got into my head when I was still young. In the positions I liked and felt I had an opportunity, I trained a lot. And I ended up becoming, for a few years while my body allowed it, a specialist in mid-range shots. And I wasn't afraid. I had that attitude, that desire to attack, and that's it. I'm happy to have scored some goals, which for me weren't many.
But they did. Many modest attempts, man.
I'm thinking, wow, so many goals there.
A lot of things.
That's absurd. Now, nowadays, even that is more rare because people don't shoot. They just keep waiting for the perfect pass. But man, when there's an opening, there's an opportunity, the guy doesn't have the courage to take the shot, to try his luck, even if it just leads to a rebound for someone else. Why is that? Why?
Rodrigo?
Why has that decreased? Because we just saw exactly that. Taking center stage doesn't come naturally to everyone. It's something very special. And not everyone wants that responsibility at a time when you, like we saw many times with Ronaldo, who was a specialist and had complete composure at the crucial moment, like we saw Romario, who was the guy who made it look effortless but always came up with the best technical solution, was always in the best position, and today what's left of that is Messi, right? We see that he's a guy whose level of concentration and game awareness is a step ahead of the others. He runs less and does more, produces more, right? And even Neymar, who today faces major physical problems because it's not easy, injuries and injuries and injuries. But there's no one at his technical level, no one who takes responsibility like he does, who has the courage to look the goalkeeper in the eye and say, where do you want it? Right? And I think that's no coincidence. It takes mastery, time, and technical excellence, and not everyone sees soccer that way. A lot of people think soccer is about who runs the most, right? But I still prefer another era.
What has disappointed you most about this Brazilian World Cup team so far?
I won't discuss disappointment since I never had high expectations and already knew it wouldn't happen. But I know that you don't invent soccer, you organize soccer around your strongest qualities. And I think 2 years is a short time for you to organize one way of playing, or even two or three, and then change it. And we had a huge misfortune. We lost players, right, with high potential in the end, which hurt us. And all of this changed our way of playing. You see, we were left without any real fullbacks. Man, that's almost the truth, right? So what can you do, right? You have to change how you play, then change everything last minute, making all your preparation very difficult. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would never question Ancelotti's work, right? The coach, man, after Sir Alex Ferguson, maybe one of the people who has done the most high-level match preparation. But against Japan, he gave a lesson, right, in timing, in reading the game, in managing his resources, in the confidence he had. But against Norway, we became passengers on a high-speed train because it's so different. Maybe ousado seria. Maybe put Neymar to start the game because you could substitute him. Would you do that? I would. I would. The guy brought Neymar to the team and maybe changed the game with a plan of fullbacks, three defenders, and three in the midfield. Putting Danilo in, a guy who has a lot of intensity there, along with already experienced guys like Casemiro and Bruno Guimaraes. So yeah, that's life, right? Football is empirical for those who like it and want data and analyze statistics. Numbers don't lie, you know? Numbers don't lie, but not everyone can explain football through numbers. You need to see behavior. We had some positive things, young players who showed they have personality, but as a team, we were weak. And one thing that really upset me, I wanted to see the same desire in Brazil that I saw in the Argentinians, because they're not that much better than us. But they gave it their all until the very end. So
Soccer brings out that drive and anger. You had a short fuse, right? On the field, you gave it your all.
You gave it your all and worked hard. The fans felt represented.
The Botafogo fans, yeah,
You represented them.
you fought to be there. You cared about being there. You cared about not leaving.
I think the greatest affection I've received and still receive from Botafogo's fans was a privilege. I experienced the Brazilian Championship and the Copa Libertadores. I was in Buenos Aires. And the Botafogo fan is someone who has suffered a lot, who knows that for things to work out at Botafogo, it's not easy. There needs to be a greater alignment of the Lone Star. But when it's ours, it's ours. And I had faith, even with the players sent off with just seconds into the game, that Botafogo would be capable. And that day, they were able to deliver the impossible. It was very rewarding to experience this whole cycle of victory, because I had a big disappointment with Botafogo. In 1999, I would have been the Brazilian champion, the Copa do Brasil champion with Botafogo, and I would have scored goals in the final alongside Bebeto, alongside a very special squad. And it was a huge disappointment because of disallowed goals in Caxias do Sul.
If it had rained, yeah.
And a bit of a lack of ambition here at Maracanã, because a team that wants to win doesn't go in with 5 or 6 defenders. They go into attack, and it was cruel.
So let's discuss 1999, a key chapter in Botafogo's history, and a title the club still pursues even after winning the Brazilian and Libertadores championships. Is 1999 the biggest frustration of your career? Because the referee disallowed that goal at Alfredo Giaconi because of everything that happened. Botafogo was the clear favorite. They had a great team. Man, you and Bebeto up front, it was a pleasure to watch that Botafogo team play. Not to mention that Botafogo's 1999 jersey was beautiful. It was amazing. But hold on before you answer.
It was at Maracanã, biggest crowd, a record crowd, 106,000 tickets sold, but the actual crowd was even bigger.
They played for over 100,000 people, having a representative of that era here.
And Botafogo at that crossroads wasn't the richest or the most powerful. It was a team, a new team that came together that year, kept overcoming and understanding each other, and put together a high-level campaign in the Copa do Brasil. And it was really tough because today there's all this technological help, and I was there on the field. My perspective is definitely different. We had 2 goals wrongly disallowed in Caxias, and that's not coming back. You know, that's in the past now. I don't want to stand here complaining or whining, but at Maracanã we could have won that kind of game. But I'm still the kind of guy who believes in moving forward. Exactly. I still think that at Maracanã we could have won that game if we had a little more courage.
Exactly. I think Gilson Nunes made a mistake, man. Bebeto was with us in this same chat. He took part here in Futebol. Bebeto, who is a great friend of ours. And we asked him about 99. He played in the World Cup, lost the World Cup final. And he said that 99 was the biggest frustration of his career because of everything surrounding it, the Botafogo fans.
He breathed in your chess game. Car, purebred horse there.
And he said, no, I was robbed. He used that term. I wasn't robbed.
I don't want to, say, look, it was stolen, it was this, it was that, but the title was there for the taking. Both under the rules and in Caxias do Sul, we had 2 goals wrongly disallowed because of an unfortunate mistake by Marcio Rezende Freitas. And in Rio de Janeiro, then I put even more of the responsibility on us, right? Botafogo, we had an obligation to do what we were talking about here. When you want to win, you have to show that you want to win, you have to attack, you have to go to war. And you go in with a team where you just want to play it safe, to defend against Juventude inside Maracanã with more than 100,000 people. For me, for my way of life, it's unacceptable. I'm the kind of guy who goes for it, of always wanting to attack. Because that's the foundation of life. If you don't have faith in yourself, just go to sleep. You're not going to score a goal on me.
No, you have to be aggressive. I want to remember this. Let's go. Let's recap. If you can recall moments from that day, we did this same exercise with Bebeto. During the pregame talk, like Esmigo said, Gilson, the Botafogo coach, gathered everyone and explained the plan. They were in the locker room there. How did it happen? Boom, the news broke there. Be honest with us, Rodrigo, since you're straightforward.
No, that's really sad. There was no way I could be out of this game, but Gilson preferred to play with an extra defensive midfielder, right? Taking a defensive approach at home when we didn't have 45 minutes to wait and see what would happen. We had to show that every inch of the field we had to dominate, bulldoze, and attack. So it's really sad to go in with a game plan where you're playing Juventude at home in a match you should have already won in the first leg and still come back with a cautious defensive approach at Maracanã. That's crazy. So much so that by halftime, even before the halfway point of the game, the Botafogo fans were already reacting. Like, yeah, they were calling for you because they knew there was someone on the bench with drive.
Qualities to make it happen. Also, just to remind you, a 1-0 win was enough for Botafogo. If Botafogo won 1-0, because in the Copa do Brasil, at that time, the away goal counted as double. It had double weight, so it was 2-1 in the first leg. 1-0 for Botafogo at Maracanã.
I want to know what goes through your mind as a young striker.
Attacking midfielder. How old were you in 99?
20. 23 years old.
How does it feel to have 106,000 people shouting your name? That doesn't happen anymore. Stadiums no longer hold 100,000. If you were there, you know. Now the max is 85,000.
And we know what 100,000 Botafogo fans are like. 100,000 Botafogo fans. Botafogo is an energy that we just experienced. Brazilian champion, Libertadores champion, and it took over, invaded Buenos Aires, steamrolled everyone. It's
A fan who
is a passionate fan who has suffered a lot, who had and still has a lot of faith in his team, and knows when it's his moment, it's no one else's.
You were dying to get in. Then Smilgo remembered well, 100 and something thousand people shouting your name. 23 years old, the blood is the same.
Just being there all fired up. You're there itching to get in.
Bouncing, bouncing, look at that.
Look at Ribeiro, damn. Yeah, but you have to respect a normal hierarchy.
soccer is about being healthy.
Man, that story was really cool. And then we were really curious to know how it was. I think I can call it an adventure to play in the Premier League, which wasn't as hyped back then, but was already getting a lot of attention. For those who don't know, Rodrigo played for Everton. He played with Rooney, man. Yeah. What was it like playing in the Premier League for Everton? A great club, a giant in England, from Liverpool, the biggest rival of Liverpool, Rodrigo.
Did it go smoothly for you too? Did you adapt? How was it?
It was a complex and confusing transition. Actually, because when I left Atletico Mineiro in the first half of the year, I had 23 matches and 13 goals. I was the top scorer for Atletico. And Brazil had just come back from the World Cup, right, in 2002. And I remember very well that I had this offer. But the president of Atletico at the time, Khalil, actually discouraged me. He said, no, Rodrigo, stay here with us. I was doing well. So he wanted me to stay at Atletico. Man, yeah, we came from nothing. To be transferred to the Premier League, it wasn't common for Brazilians to play in the Premier League at that time. And I, thanks to also having Portuguese nationality, since I'm Portuguese, could play. And it all happened because of a passionate English fan who played for Newcastle, Lee, the great Lee, my friend, my brother, right, who saw me playing and said, I want to bring this guy to play in England. And he came to Brazil, met my father, and said, man, I'm going to take your DVD, because at the time I had just played 3 games and scored 3 goals, and the guy will see that you're the one he needs to bring. And I was going to go to Middlesbrough. And along the way, he had a conversation with David Moyes, who was the coach of Everton at the time. And this magic happened. He said something I'll never forget. We were in a pub, me sitting with David Moyes. He watched the DVD, turned to me, looked at me, and frankly, but Rodrigo, based on the level you're seeing here in English football in a season, how many goals do you think you would score?
Did that happen in a pub? It did.
Yeah, it did. It did. Then I said, I don't know. If I don't score 10 goals, I'll change my name. No.
You said that, right?
I like the personality. I think he was charmed by that, right? Come on, good. A guy with really high self-esteem, right? But at that time, I was stepping onto the field for Atletico, scoring 2 goals per game, flying, scoring goals from everywhere. I said what I felt, and it didn't work out. I had injury problems there. The adaptation wasn't simple, but it's a treasure that I keep. Because the learning, yeah, the experiences I had with players at Everton, which was practically a Tower of Babel, there were Italians, Africans, Chinese, Swiss. It was a club like that. You know, Everton has always been very traditional. The newspaper, their crest, had a phrase in Latin that said, Nil satis nisi optimum. Nothing satisfies us except the best. It's a club that had never been relegated from the Premier League, a traditional club that played English football. I heard some absurd things there, even from our dear David Moyes. Like what? Yeah, like not passing the ball back because he didn't trust the midfield players. not trying to control the pace of the game, always looking to hit on the counter and take defenders on. I realized that I was really going to face difficulties because I was going to a team that played in a way very different from what I was used to.
And how was it? Do you have any stories about Wayne Rooney to share with us? What was Rooney like? Wait, and Rooney was still very young, but already very connected with Everton. He always, even though he had a long career closely tied to United, he started at Everton and always said he was an Everton fan and all that. How was that beginning with Rooney?
So when I met Rooney, he was 17 years old and he's a Scouser, a local boy, right? His whole family was into boxing. He was, tough, rough. Rústico. Rough. Well, I think the word might be rough. But he was a guy with a lot of personality. He really liked what we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. He loved to shoot. No, he wouldn't give up his chance to anyone else. It was him, 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 him. And you see that he got where he did, a guy with a different drive, a guy who attacked, who had the boldness to go for the ball when he had it under control, who finished really well. And that's Rooney, the one everyone knows, right? He left Everton, played for Manchester, the English national team, and had a brilliant career. Let's see here.
Rodrigo Beckham, when did Beckham get attached to your name, and how much did that, you will tell me and judge, how much did that help or hinder you? Was there
To play,
or did nothing change?
soccer just has some pretty rough looking guys.
You stood out among the guys since there were some pretty weird people around.
It's not every day you see Kaká, Rodrigo Beckham. No, the other day my son Davey, who was on vacation here with me, made this comment. He showed me a team from a few years ago and said, "Dad, was it only ugly people allowed?" Davey, soccer isn't about looks. It's for those who are skilled at the game, right? But what I can say is this, all of this is fleeting. What sells? Sensationalism sells.
But when did it begin, Rodrigo? When was the first?
It was when I came back from England exactly to Corinthians. That's when this comes from England thing started. It was a popular club. What journalist wouldn't take advantage of that? Yes, yes, yes.
And was it good or was it bad?
What was the team like at Corinthians? At the moment it happened, I think it was bad for me. Was it bad for you, Beckham? Yeah, I wasn't. When I arrived at Corinthians, I faced a lot of difficulties. Yeah, I had injuries, I had Bell's palsy, I had a series of problems caused by not being able to perform. Stress, yeah, repetitive injuries. So it was a stressful time. So Rodrigo Beckham, I see that it was much more brought up to mess with me than to give me credit, to say, no, Rodrigo Beckham here is really living up to the name. But that was it.
Funny, I'd never heard it that way. I always thought it was about looks, calling you handsome, and the style caught on too.
The playing style wasn't a factor.
Right on the lips. But in soccer, it's not necessary for you to have good looks to be respected. And I've always been someone who wanted respect in soccer and in my profession because of my quality, right? Because of what I delivered. Exactly. That was bad for you. And I even have a brother whom I love, Giuliano, wonderful, who was a model, an amazing guy. But my thing wasn't being a model, it was scoring goals. Yes. Today, if you want me to show you something that will make me proud of what I've done, it's showing you a beautiful goal I scored, right? That moment. Yeah, that will make me really proud. Now, because at the moment, it's the most beautiful one on Globo Esporte.
Cool, but it doesn't change anything, right? For what you need, right? But today people stop me on the street.
It's a rhyme, not bullying.
It's bullying.
Yeah, totally. Right. I had never heard that before. No, I mean, it's cool to hear. I think it was, for me, a kind of pressure and the opposite kind of bullying because I wasn't performing. I was being ridiculed for being a good-looking guy and not performing at Corinthians, for example.
I never considered that perspective. It's cool to hear him say that in football.
Which is so cruel, right? Because it's a team sport. So sometimes, if you're on a team that's full of problems, the squad isn't doing well, sometimes it can drag you down, unlike joining a team with a great environment. An uphill climb there at a good moment also helps the athlete.
That's exactly what we talked about. Soccer is a team sport, and for him, within this group, to be at his best, there needs to be harmony. And any kind of egocentrism won't add anything. I'm not saying that I was egocentric, that I wanted to be in the spotlight all the time like Rodrigo. No, not at all. I never really had that. I think I was someone who even experienced being in the spotlight at certain times, wanting to be by someone's side and not wanting to be the main character, you know? Because for me, the ultimate spotlight in soccer is scoring goals, you know? It's making a difference, it's winning games, right? Now, how your image is interpreted, that's definitely something. Those of us who have a lot of experience with the media and public image, we know that's distorted all the time, you know? You try, right, to maintain an ethical and moral standard, but if you win, you're the best. And if you lose, you'll be the worst the next day. That's how it is, right? Yeah, and I've experienced so many positive and negative headlines, and you have to accept it. Don't think you're the best when things are going well, and don't think you're the worst when things go wrong.
Was Rodrigo the kind of guy who would go to the newsstand to buy lands to see what rating he got after the game? Yes.
Me and the rest of the world, right? Was it because you really liked doing that? Yeah, because for sure, especially if you were coming off a win, right? You want your ego stroked, right? You want praise, but yeah, I think that's normal. Every athlete has to have high self-esteem, a strong personality to be able to deal with that, because, you know, you're going to be judged all the time, and that's part of the profession.
Before we talk, as we're getting close to the end, let's talk a little about life itself to understand what Rodrigo is doing today, because I'm curious about that. He gave me the perfect lead in.
Where did he catch his first wave?
We'll get there, we'll get to life.
Big wave surfing gives you an adrenaline rush, just like being at Maracanã with 100,000 people.
We'll get to that, but first, Osmigo has a gift for Rodrigo. I'm not sure if it's in your pocket, Marcelo Osmigo. Our sponsor is Parmia. By the way, for a good hangout, order a good pizza and order Parmia, the most ordered pizza in Rio de Janeiro, the best pizza in Rio de Janeiro.
You can eat there or here.
Choose the all-you-can-eat option or your Parmia pizza.
Beautiful thing. With the wife, make a good impression, get the Parmia all-you-can-eat pass. And you who are watching this great chat can also order your pizza by scanning the QR code that's appearing on the screen right now. You get the coupon FoodPapo22, apply it on the Deliveroo website, choose your pizza, and you get a good discount. How much, Marcelo de Osmigo?
It's crazy.
How much?
It's 22 rays off.
Orders of 80 rays or more, beautiful.
Put the little Papo coupon FoodPapo22 in there and be happy. The best thing is to watch a good game while eating a pizza, chatting at Parmia.
That's it. The message about Parmia has been delivered. Now, let's talk about personal life, talk about what Rodrigo is doing. We're recording here. He kindly opened the doors of his and his wife's home.
That's right, isn't it? Genetics.
Genetics, no, génité, right, génité.
Very refined and elegant, as he was always very elegant, but you see that you were always kind of a player of...
His wife deserves credit. It's worth mentioning.
The wife, a well-married phase.
Exactly, you are.
Exactly.
Interpret here this quality, this wonderful environment, but you were always different. For example, a former player living in Rio's South Zone, that's very rare. Rare. I think I only know you and Gilberto over in Leme, but everyone else is from Barra da Tijuca. Rodrigo, you were always a bit different, right? That's how it was.
We haven't talked much about this. Football, I think it's almost like Big Brother, right? You leave your family, leave your friends to live in groups that become, you know, your top priority in life. And you need to. I think the greatest thing I learned along the way was developing good relationships with your teammates. You know, with the people who are there at that same moment with the same purpose, giving their lives, you know, for a common goal. And I feel, you know, very privileged to have met such special people along my path, friendships that I carry with me. Today, you know, friendships of 20 years, 25 years, thanks to soccer. Yeah, because it's a period in our lives when we live in a very intense way. You leave friends behind, leave family, leave, you know, commitments to go after titles, championships, to seek recognition in a sports career. And it's not easy, you know. I think besides that, which I would say is the most important thing, are the relationships you build throughout your life. You face the flip side, which I think is the worst nightmare, which are the injuries, right? Injuries. What keeps a guy from getting pushed to the margins of football? It's about handling injuries well, because injuries can put you in a dark place. I, for example, am someone who is 50 years old, and today I have had 13 orthopedic surgeries. 13.
Look, I see you there from this year.
What? 13.
Full of tape, epoxy, I kiss you.
Both ankles operated on, both knees, Achilles tendon, and so on.
Which belongs to the sport itself. And you see,
no one escapes. You take Louison, see how many surgeries he's had. Take Ronaldo, right? Every guy who got into the fight is going to come out with scars. And look at Neymar today, facing these difficulties. It's not easy. At some point, you're going to become an obsolete version of yourself, And it's tough to identify with that, for you to accept it, and suddenly, like you asked, what do you do today? You have to have the humility to start over, right? To study, maybe take a course to get professional training in something you already have more experience in. And I, at my mother's request, I have a very special mother. She said, "Son, what do you do?" I said, "I'm a ball doctor, Mom. I've already scored 3 goals at Maracana. I've been a top scorer. I've helped teams get promoted to the first division of the Brazilian Championship. I've scored in finals. I've been the top scorer in the Brazilian league ahead of Romario. And what are you?" "I'm a ball doctor, Mom." She looked at me and said, "No." "Then show me your diploma." So I went to study, taking courses from FIFA and FGV in sports management, marketing, and sports law. And that was very special. Why? Because it reconnects you once again with what is most important, which is people, right? That you, for a period of your life, had the chance to spend time with, that you have the opportunity to meet again, and sometimes in a humble way, have an exchange where they bring what we've talked about here several times. Sometimes the best part is the stories, right? It's the experiences we've had and things left behind. Maybe they're not the best example or even what we see today. Even though we hope that Brazil starts a new winning cycle, that this new generation comes right with a hunger for victory, and that they have the chance to represent us with the weight and respect that our jersey deserves.
exactly, a masterclass, giving a masterclass.
Really cool talk. Now, 3 goals at Maracana and dropped on the sand. That's Nazareth.
The Sufi juice.
That I want to understand.
I want it.
What kind of vacation did you take in Bali?
Or was it before soccer because he's from Santos?
He's the guy from something like that.
A little help here from VR.
That's what I do. I take about 1.5 meters. That's what I do there in the bedroom area.
It's already a wonderful feeling. Now,
Nazaré is like a World Cup thing.
the sea gets rough and you see who goes, who gets in, and who doesn't come back.
It's for real.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Yeah, we have Glenda, right, who was a surfer, bodyboarder, world champion. She went down the surfing path. She was also passionate about the sea and surfing. And I, for many who don't know, I'm a Santos fan, and I'm from Santos. I had a grandfather who provided us with a beach house in a very special place in São Pedro. And that gave me, for many, many years, for 40 years of my life, a tremendous amount of life experience. With the beach, with the simple way of living, going fishing, sleeping well, enjoying being at sea. Something that today I still have the opportunity to experience with my brother and with my son, Davi, which makes me very happy. And that's it. Rodrigo has the soul of a surfer. He's always loved surfing. He's surfed all over the world. And if God allows me and I stay healthy enough for it, I hope to keep surfing the waves of this world, since life goes by so fast, right?
What's more exciting? Dropping in at Nazaré, going up there, dropped in, went down, scored these goals at Maracana. You can only pick one, no fence sitting.
Look, not to brag, but the thrill of going into a game, right, and score 3 goals at Maracana, to score in a final, right? It's something that It's hard for me to find an experience at that level, but we keep looking. That's it. And surfing gives us great experiences like that adrenaline rush, like dropping in at Nazaré, right? We live with traces of that, right? Of addictions, right? To endorphins, because after living such special moments in this ordinary life, we're always looking for something to push the limits, to go overboard, right? And to live that adrenaline.
How cool. Before we go to the challenge, Soccer and Chat, also a message for you who are enjoying our Soccer and Chat. Minimal Club is also with us, the best shirts on the market. Egyptian cotton line doesn't fade, doesn't wrinkle, won't age, won't stain, none of that. I'm wearing minimal here. Look, well dressed, exactly. You can also have access to this premium quality that Minimal Club offers. How? Scan the QR code and you can still get this deal with our Fute Papo coupon plus a discount on this kit of 4 minimal t-shirts. It's the opportunity that Fute Papo is offering you, a quality shirt that flatters the male physique. I don't even have that much, but it still looks good, so that's it. Top quality. Minimal Club, sponsor of our Fute Papo. All right, the Fute or Papo challenge here at Fute Papo, and today it's all about the chat, and we want some good banter. Rodrigo de Bebeto,
One of the coolest guys in para football.
Right, man, by far, Bebeto.
Always a good guy, great to chat with, really cool. And you had the chance to play up front with Bebeto.
what a striking duo.
Oh.
By the way,
You only played with Nilo, he was awesome.
well, yeah, it's very easy. Talking about Bebeto for me, yeah, it is. It was really something magical because I was young, you know, when I had the chance to meet Bebeto. And it was really something enchanting in my life. First, I lived in an apartment that belonged to Bebeto, which he rented to me because, you know, he said, "No, Rodrigo, you're going to live in my apartment." I used to train with Bebeto, you know. And Bebeto was still at a stage where he was like a football masterclass, you know. I've never seen such a technical guy, such a kind and loving human being. It's true. Man, he was such an example, really a privilege. I would say it was a privilege because when I first got to Rio de Janeiro, I had that example. Take Bebeto, for example. I not only lived in his apartment, but I also went to train with him. I saw and spent time with his family, you know. He was not only a reference for me in terms of skill, personality, and humility, but he was also a friend, a guy who embraced me, welcomed me, and gave me the strength to grow. When I was young and really needed someone who was already established, grounded, and kind like him, Bebeto, I love you. You are like a father to me in football, a guy who welcomed me with all the love in the world and did everything for me. And I hope we can spend more time together now.
There's a good story about him there, some backstage or locker room story, something he said in the middle of the game.
Some mistake you made.
He's not there, Rodrigo, so shoot it yourself. You took the shot, you didn't pass it to him.
Yeah, Bebeto. As we know, he was always the on-field leader, the guy who saw what we couldn't see. Let's go. And he wasn't rough at all. He was always a very gentle guy. So yeah, I think the hardest part for Bebeto was putting up with us, the young guys, you know? Impulsive, and many times we didn't have the wisdom to put the responsibility in his hands because he was the guy who deserved it and needed it. And in the 99 final, he was the guy who should never have been substituted. I'm sure that if he had been on the field, the title would have been ours, the miracle would have happened because he had something special.
So was there, just by the way you said it, there was one where he was asking for the ball and you took the shot, wasn't there? Was there?
Yeah, there were those moments, or there were fouls, there were, did you ask to take the shot? Yeah, because we always, you know, 1, 2. I was the guy who always shot, the star shooter, that's who I was.
Then he came over all smooth and said, Rodrigo,
Chiguinho.
pass the ball to me.
I love you, Bebeto. You are phenomenal. It was a privilege for me to have spent time with you, with your family, and to have learned so much from you in football. I'm your fan.
And the privilege was ours. Rodrigo, truly, really. First, I want to thank you so much for opening your home to welcome us here. A good chat, man, the kind of chat you have with someone who has a light way of going through life, and that's really good. Like by osmosis, you can tell that you're a good guy. We're just now getting to know each other in person, only as fans of your work in soccer. Yeah, in soccer, but a laid back guy who sees life with the right mindset, which I believe is the right way. That's what I think about life too. So, man, I hope more people can get to know this Rodrigo, not just Rodrigo, the soccer player, Rodrigo Beckham, or Rodrigo from the transition.
Transition, what's coolest is this guy who
He sees life.
like this. And for these kids who play soccer too, it's important to have role models for the more experienced ones who are thinking about retiring at that point. You are the guy who made a really cool transition, Rodrigo. You have a soccer background and are cool. You made the transition and kept going.
It's our privilege, Rodrigo. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Esmingo. It was a huge pleasure. I'm someone who sometimes avoids making this kind of commitment, but it was a privilege for me. It was really a great pleasure to be here, to have this kind of conversation and share all these stories. Because really, like I said, sometimes nowadays a lot of good things have been left behind.
If we live life a little more in Rodrigo's style, the world will be much better. This was another Fute Papo. We'll be back next week. See you next time. Informa